What is going on, trainers? DrumVillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go PvP content, and today we're taking a look at Mystical Fire Drifblim in the Ultra League. Now, when these moves were announced, I said it was one of the most exciting moveset changes for me personally. I'm looking forward to seeing it because Drifblim was long one of my favourites in the Ultra League. My first ever video on the channel was utilising Drifblim in the Ultra League to hit Legend rank. So I really like Drifblim, I really like its play. So I've now built myself an XL Drifblim. This thing is level 50, no, it's level 49 best buddy, so it's level 50.5. I'm not saying you need to build a Drifblim that is that XL. You can use a hundo and just max that out as close as you can to 2500 CP, or you can just use whatever IV spread you've got. But the extra bulk on Drifblim is one of its biggest advantages. This thing is incredibly bulky in general, and adding extra bulk while getting off those debuff moves is really the best way of playing this Pokemon. Now, Mystical Fire, for those who aren't fully aware, is a fire-type clone of Icy Wind, and we all know there are very strong Pokemon that use Icy Wind in PvP in general. Picks like Dewgong in the Great League, Articuno in the Ultra League are very notorious Icy Wind users. So a fire-type version of that move is fantastic because now you can threaten Steel types for super effective damage as well. And this really makes Drifblim very versatile in terms of what moveset you want to run on it. Honestly, you can run Shadow Ball, you can run Icy Wind, you can run Mystical Fire, and they all give you different coverage in the Ultra League meta. And personally, this might be a controversial take, I'm not sure, but I'm going for both Mystical Fire and Icy Wind, and I'm forsaking Shadow Ball because I was thinking it's the Open Ultra League. What am I really going to want to throw Shadow Ball against? It's going to be picks like Giratina and other things like that, and those are matchups where I can throw Icy Wind instead for strong super effective damage anyway, still get that debuff in as well, and it means I'm not having to worry about baiting. I'm just going for the best move, and I'm not having to second guess myself on whether I should go for a nerfing bait or go for the harder hitting move. I just go for the nerf, drop the attack, drop the attack, drop the attack, and spam those moves a little bit faster. Now, I'm not saying that that's definitely the best call. There are some matchups where I was massively missing having Shadow Ball for sure. Having that extra oomph of damage, especially if shields are down at some points in games, is really, really vital. But a lot of matchups having the versatility of both Mystical Fire and Icy Wind paid off for me as well. So you've really got to decide based on what you're pairing it up with, what you want to run around this thing and what coverage you need. Just take it from there and judge it as what's best for your team personally. Now, if like me, you want to run Mystical Fire and Icy Wind, that doesn't mean the opponents know you don't have Shadow Ball. So in a lot of matchups, it's going to be worth throwing one extra Hex before you throw those charge moves, just to look like you've got Shadow Ball. You could be throwing it, and you're going to get more shields out of certain matchups, especially, let's say, so this moveset in particular really punishes the Jellicent matchup. You're going to struggle because your charge moves are going to be all resisted, but if you're throwing one extra fast move before you throw the charge moves, they're still going to think you've got Shadow Ball. So as long as you don't reveal you've got two charge moves in that matchup, now they've put Shadow Ball, you're going to be able to get shields anywhere in that matchup, even though you're caught up in something where the Jellicent could realistically get hugely ahead on energy and shield advantage. And actually, I had some pretty good success with this team. I played 15 matches and I won 10. So I had 2 3 out of 5 win sets, and I had a 4 out of 5 win set. So distinctly positive with this team, and there were a lot of meta lines, a lot of meta picks. This was still quite early on in the season because, as I said in my last video, I've been away for the first couple of weeks of the season, so I'm playing catch up. I am now in Ace rank, climbing up towards Veteran rank, but these battles take place in rank 18. But that doesn't mean there's not a lot of hard meta lines and strong players. A lot of players with past Legend rank poses as well, so this team can hold its own. It's not just against not as experienced players without as strong meta teams. So let's talk lineup. Now, I wanted to mix it up a bit with this team. I know in the Ultra League, a lot of the time I'm using Registeel and Cresselia and building teams around those two. So I wanted to mix it up a little bit. And this team is a little bit all over the place in terms of lineup, but we're running Virizion and Regirock paired up with this thing. Now, Drifblim, I've got a moderate level of experience with, albeit not with Mystical Fire specifically, but I've never really used much Virizion or Regirock in the Ultra League. I've only dabbled with them occasionally. I don't think I've ever used them in videos on the channel before either, because I've never made particularly strong teams using those Pokemon. But I wanted to mix it up a little bit. And Virizion, when not running Stone Edge, which might also sound like an insane take, I don't know whether people think it's absolutely vital. I personally love the coverage of Leaf Blade and Sacred Sword. This does make matchups like Charizard incredibly punishing, but again, they don't know you've not got Stone Edge. If you haven't revealed both moves, you can still build up as if you have and get shields in that situation. And Sacred Swords do add up eventually in the Charizard matchup, but if you come up against a Drifblim, with Virizion, with this moveset, you're going to be absolutely screwed. Basically, a lot of flyers can really punish you pretty hard. So you got to be careful where you get this thing lined up with. A lot of the time, I'm going to recommend you use Regirock as a safe swap on this team. Regirock's a very, very, very powerful safe swap in general. Got access to that really spammy Stone Edge and Focus Blast as well for huge nuke potential. The coverage is fantastic. You're not really going to bait out the hardest counters to Virizion with your Regirock safe swap. This is more of an ABC line than an ABB or anything like that. And normally, I'm building ABB lines to some extent, but this is an ABC line. Pretty versatile coverage across the full line, but it's really, really strong. It works out really well, and even in their worst matchups, a lot of these Pokemon can really put a lot of work in, and so oftentimes get your shield advantage, which is all you need in Ultra League really to win a lot of games. Another reason the team's lined up the way it is that I personally think Virizion and Regirock are a very, very strong core in the Ultra League. Between them, there isn't much that can stand up to both of them. Giratina is probably the biggest threat overall to them as a pair, but Regirock can definitely hold its own in that matchup and win in even shield scenarios, depending whether they've got Dragon Breath or Shadow Claw. And so then pretty much anything that swaps in to your Drifblim, you're going to have an option to handle it. So if you win lead on with Drifblim, you're looking very, very positive. Maybe they swap out and it's something, let's say they swap out into Giratina out of a lead that you need Drifblim for. Icy Wind debuff them first and then bring in Regirock to mop it up, because you're going to be absolutely... You're going to be laughing in those situations. Once you can get a debuff off and then swap out to meet, you can pretty much guarantee you'll be able to take switch advantage even if you don't have the hardest answer as well. And Virizion and Regirock just cover each other so well. Virizion is mainly weak to the flyers, which Regirock absolutely decimates. Charizard, Talonflame, Pidgeot, Drifblim, they all struggle with Regirock massively. And Virizion covers everything that Regirock loses to, including the fighters. It beats Scrafty and Obstagoon. It also beats Swampert. It beats Galarian Stunfisk. Anything that Regirock's going to struggle with, Virizion can handle, and vice versa. So let's take a look at some matchups. And this opponent has Charizard on the lead, which is pretty scary for Drifblim, just because those Blast Burns are going to hit so hard. Doesn't matter how bulky you are, a Shadow Blast Burn from Charizard is going to absolutely ruin your day. So we're just going to go for the Icy Wind bait and then go for another one straight away before they get to the next Blast Burn. We get one shield out of them, which isn't too bad, but also if we'd have had Shadow Ball and got that through on the first throw, we would have just KO'd them, so But here, they make a really good play. They swap into Giratina when we're too low to make it to an Icy Wind. If we'd have had a smidgen more health, we'd have survived the Shadow Claws, but we were going to get farmed down there. And I realised a little too late, I stayed in for 2 full hexes worth, which adds up against Drifblim, to be honest, when it's super effective. So we should have swapped out straight away to Regirock to get straight into this matchup, preserve a little bit of health on Drifblim, because in a different matchup it might have survived enough fast moves to get to another charge move, whereas right now it's close to a charge move, can't get it off, and almost anything can farm it down before it'll get another hex off in time. So we're in this matchup with Giratina. We're going to take these Dragon Claws. You see, I think we're going to just survive this and get this Stone Edge off. They might undercharge, I'm not sure, but it doesn't quite take us out. We get the Stone Edge off, so it really comes down to in this matchup is whether or not Virizion can beat whatever's in the back. We're going to swap out aggressively, and there's Cobalion. So this is looking pretty good for us. Virizion does beat Cobalion just because they're weak to the Sacred Sword, but you're not. And if they've got Stone Edge, obviously they're not going to be wanting to throw that. Now, they do have some health left on that Charizard, and those double super effective wing attacks are going to do a lot of work. Not to mention, I'm not sure if they had energy when they swapped out. They might be close to a Dragon Claw as well. We probably should have built up some extra fast move energy after this, but they do give us the shield. Charizard's going to come in, and you see those Shadow Wing attacks are going to farm us down, and we are now too low to do anything else about it. If we'd have saved that bit of health on Drifblim and not taken the Shadow Claws, we probably could have survived those wing attacks instead to get to an Icy Wind, and we might have had a shot. But either way, GG's. Ampharos lead, you're going to want to say swap Regirock, and this is a no-brainer because most Ampharos are going to be running Brutal Swing, and then they might be running Thunder Punch like this one is. They might be running Focus Blast or Dragon Pulse. Any which way, Virizion is not going to be weak to any of those moves, and you're going to be resisting the fast moves because you're going to resist its Volt Switch, and you're probably going to resist the charge moves if they are running the Thunder Punch Brutal Swing pair as well, so it's a very dominant matchup. So bring in Regirock as the safe swap, try and get a hold of switch advantage. They're going to meet us with a Sylveon, which is going to have to give up a shield because these Stone Edges are really, really adding up. And if they had a little bit less bulk, they might get farmed down here. If we shield this, we might get the lock-on down. Are we going to gamble for it? We're not. We're going to let it go through. That's completely fine. bring in Drifblim, farm down, get a little bit more energy. We've got shield advantage, which is very, very nice for us. We're going to bring in Virizion, and they've got Typhlosion, which is pretty scary for us, but we're going to time his charge moves right. We're going to throw 3 fast moves from when they swap into Typhlosion, so we're just ahead of the Incinerate, so we get to throw first. We're going to shut up the Blast Burn. We're going to go for more Sacred Swords here. We're going to throw this, throw one more fast move, throw another Sacred Sword. It should take them out because Typhlosion's pretty squishy. We're going to shut up this Blast Burn. That's completely fine, and we're going to have quite a bit of health left on Virizion here to hopefully round out this game. Now, the Sylveon, I believe, is... No, the Sylveon's knocked out. So Ampharos is here. We should have gone for a Leaf Blade here. Leaf Blade is a slightly better move than Sacred Sword. Doesn't matter though, damage is damage. And now we're going to bring in Drifblim and go for the debuffs, because we want this Ampharos to not be able to knock out Virizion with one more charge move. So, straight for the Icy Wind. Doesn't matter which of the 2 moves you throw here. They're both going to do exactly the same damage. They're both non-stab, same damage, same debuff, guaranteed chance. They have to throw. We'll get to another move because debuffs are OP. That's fine. And then we just bring in Virizion, and I think we're just going to fast move them down here, actually. And this won't knock us out. Should just be the Thunder Punch. And that's going to be a GG. Okay, now one of the worst leads for us to see in this team is ice types, like Lapras, because Lapras acts as pretty much a bit of a core breaker for this team, because both Virizion and Drifblim are weak to the fast moves. Regirock doesn't want to see the Surfs either, so it's a little bit awkward. We're going to say swap Virizion rather than Regirock, which you could argue about whether that's the right decision or not, but it's a decision we're going with. We pull out a Talonflame and we're building up extra energy. We're scaring them that we've got Stone Edge. So look at this here now. We don't even have Stone Edge, but we've got 2 shield advantage, and that is a huge advantage to have in general, because right now this Talonflame isn't threatening because we can bring in Regirock. Do it. Throw Brave Bird. We don't care. We're saving those shields. They're going to go for another Flame Charge, and they're not going to make it to another charge move to get any extra damage off. We're just going to annihilate them with Stone Edge. Bang, get out of there. Right, what can we do? We don't have switch advantage, but we've got 2 shield advantage. You'll see there for a split second that Trevenant came in to meet Regirock, and then we've got the Lapras back in against Drifblim. We're going to commit 1 shield into this matchup just to soften up Lapras a little bit, get some Mystical Fire debuffs off. We want this Lapras down in single Stone Edge range, which it is at this point, so we don't mind if they try and get extra energy. Maybe they'll misjudge this matchup. Doesn't matter. We're now going to let this go, and Regirock with 1 shield advantage is going to go for the win. The Surf isn't going to take us out. They have to throw again. No, they didn't have to throw again there. They could have farmed us down. So that's a misplay by the opponent, which is definitely going to work in our favour. Trevenant comes in now, and this could be Shadow Ball, it could be Seed Bomb. It's Seed Bomb. This is kind of worst case scenario for us, that we've been baited like that, because Seed Bomb wouldn't take us out, but I think Shadow Ball does a little bit more, even though the Seed Bomb's super effective. But we're going to get to 2 Stone Edges here. Trevenant's pretty squishy. We're going to take them out, and now it's a race to Stone Edge against the Lapras. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they were just getting to the Surf there. Doesn't matter. Stone Edge is super fast with that lock-on energy generation. We're going to take the win against a pretty terrible line. Lapras lead, Talonflame on Virizion without Stone Edge, and then Trevenant to meet Regirock is a devastating situation. So to bring that back is pretty impressive for the team overall, even if the opponent did make a bit of a misplay by throwing an extra Surf into Drifblim when they didn't have to. Okay, Swampert lead. We're going to play this out like we're Articuno in the classic Ultra League, and we're going to shut the first Hydro Cannon, get a debuff off. They're going to swap out into Miltank, which is a pretty interesting save swap in the Ultra League in general, especially with the rollout getting a slight buff with the start of this season. And we're going to choose to bring in Regirock here. And when this isn't really a good idea, we should have just brought in Virizion, because then we're definitely resisting the fast moves. We'll be resisting, well, Regirock resists the body slams. But Virizion doesn't, but those Sacred Swords are much, much better at pressuring to take Miltank out. We're going to go for a Focus Blast, which is going to go through, do big damage. But think about it, right? They had a Swampert on the lead. Swampert struggles with Virizion. It struggles with Grass. It struggles, you know. So what are they likely to have in the back? They're probably going to have a Fire type, or a Flying type, or a Fire Flying type, like Charizard or Talonflame or something like that. And we really should have read the room there a little bit and preserved Regirock for that matchup, done the obvious thing and brought in Virizion into the Miltank. But we're now in this situation where we've gone down 2 shields. Charizard is here against our Virizion. There it is, you know, we were scared of seeing it. We're going to throw the Leaf Blade because we've already shown we've got Leaf Blade, right? So we get a shield here. And the reason we threw Leaf Blade rather than Sacred Sword is because they've only seen Leaf Blade. If we show them Sacred Sword on the first bait, then they don't have to shield again. They got no pressure to even throw a charge move, and they can get a ton of energy. So we force them to throw a Dragon Claw, take us out. That's not too bad. Getting Regirock here into this matchup, and now we're going to swap in Drifblim to catch what's hopefully a Blast Burn. It is. You say hopefully catch a Blast Burn. You don't want to catch a Blast Burn on pretty much anything. You just want shields for those things because, as I said before, they hit like absolute trucks. This is going to force the Charizard to throw again to take us out, thanks to the Icy Wind debuff. Again, if we'd have had Shadow Ball though, we could have just taken them out. So it's one of those situations where you miss not having it. They try and catch on Miltank, they're going to fail, but they've got the energy for a Blast Burn anyway. This is going to take us out, and it's going to be a GG. If we'd have just swapped in Virizion into the Miltank and lined up that way, we'd have been looking a lot better in that game overall. Now, if I told you that this matchup was Giratina, Cresselia and Charizard, we don't get switch advantage and we still managed to win, would you believe me? Let's go ahead and check it out, right? So we got the Giratina on the lead with Shadow Claw, so worst case scenario in terms of the fast move. There's not as many Dragon Breath Giratinas around in the Ultra League. Currently, it was a pretty even split, I thought, at one point a couple of seasons ago, but Shadow Claw is really taking off as the more popular choice. It is the slightly better move. Overall, they've got Ancient Power, which is not ideal. It's going to hit us quite a bit harder than those Dragon Claws. They are going to shut up the Icy Wind, which we don't mind too much, but also we'd like to get one of these through and do a nice big chunk of damage. We've built up towards another Shadow Ball here, but we don't get the shield. They are going to be forced to throw to take us out. It might not quite if it's Dragon Claw. If it's Ancient Power, it will. It is the Dragon Claw. We're going to survive, get to one more Icy Wind. Are they going to shield this up for switch advantage, right? Yeah, they are. And like I said, I've just said what the lineup is, so you know that's really bad news for us. But here we are, we're stuck with it, right? We don't know this yet. We're keeping the shield advantage and hoping that's going to clutch us through this game. This Giratina's debuffed into the ground, so we're going to build up extra energy. We're going to go pretty much to 100 energy before we throw the Stone Edge here to take them out, just to make sure we've got as much energy as possible to threaten whatever's going to come in the back. So Stone Edge comes through, we take out the Giratina. That's great. In comes Cresselia, right? And I said at the start of the video, Giratina is tough for the Regirock Virizion pair. Cresselia is also incredibly punishing because Grass Knot's super effective against Regirock. You got Moonblast and Future Sight, which is super effective against Virizion. And it's got such massive bulk that the Stone Edges and Leaf Blades are going to take a long time to add up for you to put serious work in back as well. So we're going to swap out to Virizion to catch what we hope is a Grass Knot here, which it is. Thank the Lord, this is a winning start. Now Charizard comes in. If we had Stone Edge on our Virizion, we'd have been able to guarantee getting it off, wipe them out. We'd have been looking absolutely cushy here. But we throw a Leaf Blade. I'm not really sure why. We should have just been throwing Sacred Swords. The Charizard is just farming us down. This is absolutely devastating for us. And the only advantage here is that we can snipe with the Stone Edge, deny all that energy on Charizard, get in the bin. We've still got a shield here. So, Cresselia, I'd have been so mad if I was this trainer. I swear that the Charizard must have overtapped because they had like 2 Blast Burns worth of energy, and that just meant that we didn't have to use a shield there, being able to get that Stone Edge off super quick like. And now it means we're just going to be able to get to another Stone Edge. Actually, I thought it was going to be a lock-on down at that point for how close it was, but we make it to another Stone Edge, finish them off, and that was absolute skin of the teeth. The time is coming up. We had to catch a Grass Knot. We had to snipe all the energy of Charizard, but we managed to clutch it. And sometimes you just get lucky with the opponent making a slight misplay. Especially in these earlier ranks and lower ranks when people are a bit less experienced in general. Okay, another awkward matchup for this lineup, Golisopod. It's got Shadow Claw that's super effective against our Drifblim. They're going to have a water type move. I think this one's running Aqua Jet rather than the new move Liquidation, which is going to be very good against Regirock. It's also got access to X-Scissor, which will be neutral against the Virizion and those Shadow Claws as well. It's going to be resisting everything but Leaf Blade on Virizion. So generally, Golisopod has decent play against this team. Not devastating, but just strong play. So we're going to stay with Drifblim, do what we can. We're not going to shield this up now, so expecting another Aqua Jet, which is a pretty trash move, so it's not going to do too much damage, especially with the debuffs. Go for another Mystical Fire. This might not quite take them out, but it's going to make it very close for the farm down situation, and we do. We simultaneously KO in the one shield scenario. That's not too bad. I'm just happy that this thing's out of the way. And there's Trevenant in the back, so this is going horribly so far because we cannot bring Virizion into this thing. We get absolutely walled, and Regirock doesn't have the best time. Let one charge move through because we can survive it, and we're just going to go for Stone Edge spam Now, if this Trevenant isn't massively XL, which it looks like this one isn't, then 2 Stone Edges are going to take them out, and you are going to outpace Trevenant, especially since the Seed Bomb nerf, where it takes a little bit more energy to get to. So now in the 1 shield scenario, and there's a Dragonite, and once again, we're left sorely missing Stone Edge on Virizion, because if we had Stone Edge, we could guarantee getting it off here, and KO them or get the shield, and then get a Stone Edge off on Regirock if they did shield, and definitely take them out. So, we get the shield, that's fantastic, but also now this Dragonite can just, they've given up the shield, and we don't have Stone Edge to punish them for getting the bait off. They can farm us down and have a ton of energy to dump into Regirock, which might just not give us enough time to get to the Stone Edge to take them out. We haven't got enough fast move pressure here anyway with Lock On. We've got to let this through, because if it's Superpower, we're looking a little bit better. Well, no, if it's Superpower, it takes us out, but we had to gamble that we could survive 1 charge move, which we might as well let the first one through, because otherwise you shield up a Dragon Claw, then they throw a Superpower. You know how it is. Anyway, GG. Tough matchup for us for sure. Okay, Scrafty Lead's going to swap out straight away into Drapion. We're going to misjudge how fast Drapion is and let him get to a crunch before we swap out. I think we were thinking about throwing an Icy Wind debuff and then swapping out, just to make this matchup a little bit stronger for Regirock to come into. But it does cost us taking that much damage on Drifblim when we know that there's a Scrafty back there as well. We do know we can line up Virizion with Scrafty instead, which is a better matchup overall for us, and hopefully Drifblim's going to have good play against whatever else is in the back. Thankfully, it seems that this Drapion doesn't have Aqua Tail, it seems to have Crunch and probably Sludge Bomb, so bringing in Regirock rather than Virizion was definitely the right call. Scrafty comes in, we're going to go for the Focus Blast, it's going to do big damage to let it through. They don't, they're going to shield up, that's completely fine. But they are going to build up a little bit of excess energy. It's not going to do them that much good against Virizion, because they really just have to go for Power Up Punch spam and amplify themselves to the roof. They're going to swap out into a Stunky in the back, which is going to have access to Crunch. It's going to get to them relatively quick with those Poison Jabs. It is a pretty good move. We're just going to go for spamming Mystical Fire debuffs. If we win this matchup, great. If we lose this matchup, that's not too bad, because at least the Stunky is going to be debuffed and we can take them out with Virizion. Hopefully, maybe we should have shielded that. This thing's got quite a bit of health left, and those Poison Jabs, debuffed or not, are going to be adding up and doing quite a bit of work. Plus, what are we saving the shield for? We're not going to be shielding up the Scrafty, because it's going to be just doing Power Up Punch madness. This is going to be a little bit closer than I think is necessary. I do think shielding up the Drifblim would have been the better call here. But there goes another Power Up Punch. That's, I guess, for now it's fine. We're very close to 2 Sacred Swords, which should take Scrafty out, but then that Stunky's going to come back in. It's not going to be debuffed, and those Poison Jabs will be doing a lot more damage, so it's going to be a race to the Sacred Sword. Are we going to make it? It's going to be close. We are just closer than it should have been, and we're going to take out the Stunky, and we're going to take the win. GG. I think at the start of that game, the opponent made a bit of a misplay, not staying in with Scrafty until we'd at least debuff them, and then swapping out just to get that extra energy advantage, whether they threw a foul play at us straight away or not. I think when you're in that kind of matchup, you might as well build up, because we're not doing any fast move pressure to them either. Moving forward, we've got a Machamp lead that's going to say swap into an Umbreon to catch an Icy Wind, which isn't too bad. We're going to build up a bit of extra energy and catch a foul play on Virizion. You know, a bit of tit for tat. We want some of that energy back and all that good stuff. Foul play is going to do absolutely nothing, especially debuffed to Virizion. This is a very strong matchup, even if the Umbreon has Psychic, which I think this one actually does. Yeah, there's the Psychic. That's completely fine, especially with that debuff. They're not going to be threatening us. We can take another Psychic, absolutely no problem, and we're still going to be looking pretty good. We get a shield out of them with the Sacred Sword. That's even better. So we're still in a very strong position. Even if they throw another Psychic, we can let it through. We're not at risk of being farmed down. They still have to land another charge move after that, but we are pretty low, but they're going to hit not very hard at all. The Champ's going to swap back in. We're just going to hit him with a Sacred Sword. We could have gone for the Leaf Blade, I guess, at that point for a little bit more damage. Doesn't matter. We get the shield. Swap back out to Drifblim. We've got 2 shield advantage here, so we can hit him with an Icy Wind. This could be Rock Slide. It's worth a shield. Debuffed or not, it's a Shadow Rock Slide from a Machamp. Hit like a truck. Completely fine. We should beat them to this move. Is this Rock Slide? This might be Cross Chop. I wouldn't shield it. No, Rock Slide, okay. That's going to do a decent chunk. Not too bad. Use that opportunity to get more energy. So we're very close to an Icy Wind to hit that Umbreon when it comes back into meters again, no doubt. It doesn't come in. It's an Abomasnow. Here comes Mystical Fire. Double super effective. Get wrecked. I'm going to say get wrecked. It's not the strongest move and it's not stab, but it does enough. It does a nice big chunk of damage. And this pretty much sets the stage for us to win. We let the first move through. Even if it was Weather Ball, if it was Energy Ball, which would have been super effective, it wouldn't take us out. We could survive it very comfortably. That's why we didn't shield, because we could afford to not shield. We take them out. We're just left with Umbreon, and we got a shield advantage, so they're going to surrender. GG. Okay, just a few matchups left. I believe this is the second matchup of the 4 out of 5 win set, and we got a fantastic lead. Virizion is absolutely great for us. Maybe if they get a Stone Edge on us, it's going to be pretty threatening. They're going to swap straight out into Stunky. Now this puts us in an awkward position because we want to keep Regirock away from that Virizion, so we just think bring Regirock in straight away. We could have debuffed Stunky first though. We had time. We outpaced them to one of those debuffing moves where they get to a crunch. So we could have thrown like an Icy Wind or Mystical Fire just to make this matchup a little bit more comfortable. Doesn't matter all that much though, because that energy advantage would have got a long way for them getting crunches off and threatening us anyway, and there's all the chance they just get a defense drop and undo the attack debuff anyway. So you could argue either way for that strategy, but we're just going to get Regirock in here and get it used up. We're going to get both shields out of this opponent. Are we going to shield this up? Is it worth a shield? We're going to choose to shield it up. I suppose we're really eyeing up that Drifblim Virizion matchup. We really want to keep a hold of that. But if Virizion comes in here and farms us down, it's going to be a lot closer to a Stone Edge on Drifblim, which isn't going to take us out, but it's going to be a good bloody start for them. So we throw the move. We actually, did they catch or did we CMP tie there? We're going to go for the Mystical Fire. They let it go through. Yep, it is still the Virizion in there. This is probably Stone Edge. It's probably going to do a nice big chunk of damage, even debuffed. Yep, it does more than 50%. That's worth noting that even debuffed, you cannot survive 2 Stone Edges from Virizion with Drifblim. And like I said, mine's about as bulky as Drifblim comes in the Ultra League. So this means that if it gets a farm down on our Virizion after this matchup, we're looking pretty bad because they did survive the Mystical Fire, which means we can't take them out with one more charge move. We need a little bit more than that. This Guzzlord's going to struggle to take us out. We CMP tie, which is really unfortunate for us actually. We should have had that little bit more energy at this point just to throw something extra into the Virizion, or maybe at least get a little bit lower on health so it can't farm us quite as much. Sacred Soul's not going to quite take them out. They've got the energy here. We see we're going to be 1 or 2 hex short here of the charge move. Stone Edge is going to take us out, and we're just a little bit behind on health to get farmed down and take an L. GG's there to the opponent. Really good showcase there on what Virizion can do on lead, even if you lose lead into something like Drifblim. Right, another Swampert lead. We're going to go for the same strategy as before. We're building up to Shadow Ball. We're going to let the first Hydro Cannon go through though this time around. It actually still doesn't quite do 50%. I was curious how hard it would hit if we didn't debuff them first. And it doesn't seem to make too much difference because at this point, they can't farm us down. This debuffed Hydro Cannon and then the Mud Shots will not be enough to finish us off. Because we're double resisting Mud Shot, we've got Mad Bulk. I think Swampert's have to commit 2 shields at this point to get that farm down if it wants it. So they take a second debuff, they swap out into Charizard. We've got the Regirock. This is super punishing. We love to see Charizard say swaps when you've got Regirock. It's about as hard a counter as it comes. We take a Blast Burn like it's a ham sandwich. We don't care. We're just going to eat it up for breakfast. Here comes the Stone Edge. Bang! Charizard gets absolutely smashed to pieces. And we're expecting the Swampert to come back in, and it is going to be able to take us out. Nope, we've got the Stone Edge. We built up nice extra energy, and that's why that's a good reason. Even that good matchup, it's worth taking the Blast Burn, building the extra energy. And we could... This makes me want to shield up and lock on down. That might be greedy. It might cost us. We catch up Virizion. That is a ballsy play to preserve the Regirock. Make sure we get that Swampert out of there, and now they're stuck with Cradley against Virizion. That's going to be a GG. The opponent surrenders. Alright, 2 matchups left, and we're going to start off with a full Community Day lineup squad with the newly buffed Haxorus on the lead, which is really going to struggle without much bulk in general. But the main thing we want to do is keep Drifblim aligned with that Haxorus. We want to keep it away from Regirock. They're going to swap in Walrein, and we're going to choose to bring in Virizion. You could bring Regirock into this matchup, but the Earthquake's a little bit more threatening, but also with Virizion, the Icicle Spears are more threatening. So a bit tit for tat of a matchup. It's tough to call what the right decision is here. We're just going to go for the Leaf Blade, see if we can take them out. We're going to get the Shield, which we're going to get to another move first anyway. We're going to slightly outpace Walrein once we really get the ball rolling with this energy. They are going to take switch advantage. That might sound super scary, but this Walrein is in lock-on farm down range, and Haxorus is not bulky in this league. So we're just going to go. We'll shield up an Earthquake, which is very, very nice for us. We've got a ton of energy here. Haxorus comes in, we're going to double Stone Edge it, and Haxorus isn't even going to get a charge move off, I don't think, in this situation. Might get a Breaking Swipe. Nope, doesn't quite make it. Second Stone Edge, take them out. What they got in the back, we can debuff them into the ground, whatever it is. We've got so much health left. It's a Charizard anyway. We'd have just one-shot them with Regirock anyway. GG's. Okay, so this is the last matchup, and if you want to see a Virizion without Stone Edge, take out Giratina. This is the game for you. But yeah, I'm not going to commentate over this one. I'm just going to say to you guys, let me know what you think about a Drifblim. Personally, I think it's really an interesting change. Giving it Mystical Fire, there's a lot of matchups that it hands to it. There's a lot of matchups that it shifts if you take Shadow Ball off it. But I think it just makes the meta of Ultra League in general more interesting, a bit less predictable, and that's entirely what Go Battle League needs right now. Whether it's Great League or Ultra League or Master League, you need that bit of unpredictability. What moveset is a Pokemon running? Is something actually safe to bring into it? And all that. And that's why I love Pokemon like Drapion as well, because the difference of it having Aqua Tail or Sludge Bomb completely shifts what is ideal to bring into that thing in the Ultra League. But let me know what you guys think of the team. Let me know how you're getting with Ultra League so far. Have you got your starting ELO yet at rank 20? Let me know what it is down below. What are your targets for this season? And is there anything you're particularly wanting to see in the Ultra League? We've got more than a week left of this cup, and I want to make some more videos, show some more teams off for you guys as well. So as always, thank you guys so much for sticking around this long and watching the video that is over 30 minutes long. You're absolute legends and champions, and I will catch all of you next time.